What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of Prim and Proper Sports. However, I am not Sonia Pearson. In fact, I have taken over for Sonia Pearson for right now. And it looks like that she is currently vacationing in Hawaii for her birthday. So, as you can see right by the banner over there, happy birthday to Miss Sonia Pearson at Prim and Proper Sports. Make sure that you all be sure to jump in the comments and be able to say hello. Jump in, say hi. So tonight we really do not have anything pretty much slated out. It is pretty much a carte blanche kind of day. So that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about everything. Right now, I'm currently keeping an eye on the Bruins versus the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Bruins are leading the Rangers 2-1 early in the third period. Rangers just got finished killing off a power play from Boston, residual from the second period. Vincent Trocheck with, in my opinion, a kind of weak call, but, what are you going to do? Anyhow. So, that being said, let's get on with tonight's show. Now, I've been thinking about talking a little bit of New York Jets. Now, obviously, if there's anything you guys want to talk about today, feel free to put it in the comments. I'll talk about anything and everything today. It's pretty much like I said, we got an open mic. Now, you guys notice over there, host of Weapon Top Mission Briefs retired. Yes, that is correct. I no longer stream Weapon Top Mission Briefs. I pretty much am officially retired. I guess if you want to call it that. I stepped on to help out Sonia for tonight, and think it would be pretty cool for me to be able to help her out. So, especially in a pinch, it'd be nice to get behind the microphone again. So, we'll have a little fun tonight. So, obviously, if you're watching the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share, to post it wherever. You know what I mean? It's for tonight. Like I said, it's gonna be an open mic night. I'm gonna be talking about a few different things. I am gonna be talking a little bit of New York Jets, talking about their the new head coaching hire of Aaron Glenn, former Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, and also former New York Jets player. So there's going to be a few things besides that I'm going to be talking about. So, by all means, talk to your friends. Anybody out there that's a Jet fan, that's, listening within the sound of my voice, by all means, go on and share the show. Go on, ping the show. Send me a message, send me a comment, something. So we can definitely accommodate you this evening. So let's go ahead and get something in here. So there we go. All right. So now everybody knows. Let's go ahead. Let's have some fun. All right. So that being said, here's what we're going to do. All right. New York Jets finally got themselves a his Aaron Glenn, as I stated before, former Detroit Lions defensive coordinator. Also former New York Jets player. He was actually here right around the same time that Bill Parcells was head coach. So, and he got to play. Not only played under Bill Parcells as his coach, but also worked under Bill Parcells as a scout. He was with the New York Jets organization as a scout, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of history. Okay. Aaron Glenn worked his way up through the ranks. So it's not as if that he just came over here and he was handed this job, because that certainly was not the case. Now, we'll see what happens after that. I personally believe that, it's I feel like for me, okay, coming into this all right, I'm going to give you I'm actually going to give you both sides of the coin. Before I talk about anybody else in the New York Jets staff, before I talk about any of the New York Jets offseason, I want to give my thoughts on the hiring of Aaron Glenn. And I was actually talking about this with a buddy of mine. His name's Scott Gillespie. We were chit-chatting about this not too long ago. And I pretty much had told him that I like the hire, but I hate the hire. So I want to give you the reasons why I hate the hire first, to see if any of them resonate. Because if they do, then, obviously let me know. For me, we got another first-time head coach. We're going to have another coaching staff with some people getting their first kick at the can at either coordinator positions, positions of strength, etc. Here we are with yet another learning curve. Here we are as New York Jets now having to be patient with a first-time head coach after we were just got finished being asked to be patient before Robert Saleh was shown the door. Okay. In which, I'm going to tell you, one of the things about this past season, and it got me to the point where I almost literally wanted to stop rooting for this team. And mind you, I'm not some bandwagon fan. I've been rooting for this team since 1979. I've got 40 plus years invested in this. So for me to say something that I have finally had my fill, where I'm just sick and tired of rooting for this team, I was actually getting to that point, believe it or not. I really was. And then afterwards, just a quick side note, New York Rangers tied on the power play. It is now 2-2 with 14:33 left to go in the third period, just in case if anybody cares. So, getting back to what I was saying, just with the dumpster fire that this past season was, you doubted the New York Jets organization to get this right at all. And the reason being is because of the fact that when you don't trust the owner, to make the proper decisions to put the fate of the franchise in football people that understand football work and what needs to happen, you lack confidence. You lack confidence in the ability for this man to be able to tie his shoes after he gets up out of bed. You even wonder if he needs assistance to put his pants on one leg at a time. Okay? This is how bad it is. At least for me. Now, they went ahead. They hired the 33rd firm or whatever. Connected with Mike Tannenbaum and company. They did a full search according to what they had said. And they felt that Aaron Glenn was the best candidate out of everyone that they had interviewed. Fair enough. Okay. Now, again, getting back to the reasons why I hate this hire, not just the first-time head coach, not just the fact that we're going to have coordinators that it is their first time being a coordinator someplace, or they got picked. Initially, they were an assistant or an understudy, and now all of a sudden they're being thrust into the role of having to run whatever side of the ball. Okay? This is also one of the reasons why I got frustrated, not just with the head coaching search at all, but just with the amount of people that the New York Jets were connected to. There was talk about Mike McCarthy. Okay. There was talk about the New York Jets making a trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers to acquire Mike Tomlin, which is probably the most absurd thing I've ever heard. There was also talk about John Gruden. Okay? So, look, there's been a lot of stories that surfaced. Okay? But now here we are with the Aaron Glenn hire, which again, I go back to first-time head coach. Do we really want to go through this again? We just went through this with Robert Saleh. We're going to have to allow for learning curves, etc., etc., etc. Now, here's where I'm going to give you the reason why I like this hire. Former New York Jets player. Played very well as a New York Jet. Had a great career as a New York Jet. Played under Bill Parcells. Was also a member of the team that went 3-13, okay, and then 9-7 the following year with the same personnel, where they fired Rich Kotite, brought in Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells brings in a couple of people, brings in his staff. He brings in Bill Belichick as the defensive coordinator. All of a sudden, with that same roster from the previous year, they went from 3-13 to 9-7. Okay? In which was a complete drastic turnaround. And it finally, for once in this franchise's miserable history, had the arrow pointing up. Whereas a Jet fan, even though we had an opportunity to make the playoffs at the end of the season with a victory over the Detroit Lions, and we ended up losing that game, we still would have actually been able to get on in there. And we still were able to make some noise and make some people stand up and say, the New York Jets are going to be a dangerous team going forward. Hence, they go 12-4, following season, first division title, first 12-win season in franchise history, make it to the AFC Championship game, and ultimately lose to the Denver Broncos, the eventual Super Bowl champs of that year. But I digress. Now, Aaron Glenn worked as a scout, director of player personnel, worked his way up through the ranks. Every place that he has gone, he has had boots on the ground, and he has done everything in his power to make sure that the people under his study, the people that he was responsible for coaching, that he got the very best out of them. And despite the fact last year's Detroit Lions, this past season's Detroit Lions, okay, getting the number 1 overall seed, 15-2, the first time in that city's history, okay? Dan Campbell with a tremendous job on that staff. Aaron Glenn started to make a name for himself, and you really started to see him thrust more and more in the spotlight. Even about the fact that the Detroit Lions went 15-2 with pretty much a mash unit at defense because of how many people they had on injured reserve. So you asked Aaron Glenn to go out there and to take guys that are maybe third string and fourth string guys and coach them up to be ready to go. And they were serviceable enough to at least win games to keep their ship afloat. and keep their playoff hopes alive and their hopes on clinching the number 1 seed, etc., etc. Unfortunately, Detroit did not get the result that they were looking for against Washington. So, but I digress. What I like about this hire is there's basically a guy who's going to come in here and he's not going to take any shit from anybody. So he's going to come in and he's going to do what he feels is in the best interest of this team. He's going to coach the hell out of this team. And everybody who plays under Aaron Glenn is going to understand why he was such a successful defensive coordinator. Now, that being said, we're still going to need to see what happens when the rubber meets the road, because talk is great. Oh, yeah, talk is great. Oh. Where he sat there and he told everybody, New York Jets players, New York Jets fans, buckle up and enjoy the ride. So, yeah, that's great. Great slogan. Robert Saleh had the same thing when he came in with all gas, no brake. But, we really don't know what the New York Jets are going to look like when they take the field in 2025, going into 26. They still have issues at quarterback. You have impending free agents which are leaving. You're still going to need to replace C.J. Mosley, who unfortunately is going to end up having to retire because of the injury that he suffered. All right? You're going to need to fortify that run defense. You need some help in the middle because you guys are soft. You're probably going to lose, what the heck's his name? Jamie Sherwood, unless you find a way to get him to stay on a team-friendly deal. On the offensive side of the ball, starting with the offensive line, you at least got 4 bona fide starters, but you need a right tackle and you need depth. So there's something else you need to take a look at. Questions to quarterback, I could do an entire show just on the questions to quarterback, and I'm not even going to touch that. The Jets have a running game. The only thing that they need somebody to put it all together. That's what they need. And I'm hoping that we'll end up finding out if they're able to put it all together. So for me, as I said, I like the hire, yet I hate the hire, but I'm now intrigued to see what's going to happen. Very, very intrigued to see what's going to happen. So, after that, we're now going to get to see a little bit of what his staff is going to look like. Unfortunately, I was actually able to pull up the list of his assistants that have already been hired. Okay, so let's start off with the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks. Okay. Steve Wilks was the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. So now he's going to be helping coach the defense over at the New York Jets. Your offensive coordinator is going to be Tanner Eggstrand. Okay? Now, this is his first kick at the can as an offensive coordinator because obviously Ben Johnson, who was their offensive coordinator, got a gig in Chicago as the head coach. So, going to be curious to see if Tanner Eggstrand is going to be able to make that transition from being an assistant coach to now being the offensive coordinator and running the whole shebang. Special teams coordinator, Chris Banjo. This is a hire that I like a lot. Okay? The reason why I like this a lot is because Chris Banjo is a disciple of Mike Westhoff. Mike Westhoff, who is one of the most renowned special teams coordinator and an absolute god special teams coach with the New York Jets in this time that he was here. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of philosophy Coach Banjo is going to present to this team once this roster starts taking shape. I'm very curious to see about that. I mean, our special teams was okay. We had a lot of kicking. We had a lot of kicking problems. There were a couple of issues on special teams, but we still need to see exactly how this is going to take shape. Excuse me. So that's going to be fun. Really is. Pass game coordinator, Scott Turner. All right. So he was the interim offensive coordinator with the Las Vegas Raiders. So did a fairly decent job when he was there. So be interesting to see how Turner and Eggstrand will work together and see what kind of offense that the New York Jets are going to be running. Hopefully, it's going to be something a little bit more of today's NFL and not a West Coast style like we saw when Aaron Rodgers was still quarterback. So we'll see. Now your quarterback's coach is going to be Charlie London. Formerly from the Seattle Seahawks. So he comes over to now coach the quarterback room, which I think could be interesting. Wide receivers coach Sean Jefferson. He brought over, Glenn brought over with him from Detroit. Offensive line coach Steve Hyden, who is the offensive line, who is the special teams assistant tight end coach with the Arizona Cardinals. Now your defensive backs pass game coordinator, Chris Harris, brought over from the Tennessee Titans. Going to be interesting. Defensive line coach, Eric Washington. Former defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, coming on over to work with the defensive line, which would be good. Linebackers coach, Aaron Curry, former New York Giant. And there we go. That's the list for right now. So, now, that's the staff so far. There have been other reports. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how things go. So we'll see. New York Rangers just took the lead on a shorthanded goal, 3-2. Looks like I think Mika Zibanejad with the goal. Oh, it's actually Chris Kreider with the goal. Excuse me. Mika Zibanejad with the assist. Awesome. So 3-2 Rangers, 8:06 to go in the third. Let's hope they can hold on. Anyhow, that's my thoughts about the New York Jets and the coaching staff to round out. Okay. Now, a few people have kind of asked me what my thoughts are about the Super Bowl, who I liked in the Super Bowl. This is probably going to be the least watched Super Bowl because I think a lot of people were kind of hoping for a Washington or Detroit against Buffalo. I think a few people were really looking for that to happen, and it's unfortunate that it didn't. Buffalo gave it their best effort. Washington gave it their best effort. But here we go. Now we got Kansas City versus Philadelphia. And again, a rematch of a couple of years ago. This should be interesting. Although some people seem to think that this is going to be a snooze fest. Well, who knows? Who cares? Well, I'm sure Philadelphia Eagles fans care. I'm sure Kansas City Chiefs fans, I'll try saying that 5 times fast. I'm sure they care. But for the rest of us around the country, we kind of didn't get the matchup that we were looking for. Now, which is actually kind of funny, because another thing that's been talked about a lot is Chiefs fatigue. Okay? Now, the reason why this has been brought up is, again, because of the fact that here Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are once again in the Super Bowl with an opportunity to win 3 Super Bowl titles in a row. There are some people that have said that we are now witnessing history. That if the Kansas City Chiefs were to win and complete the three-peat, we would be witnessing history. Yet, there are others in the sports media world that feel that everybody's getting tired of the Chiefs winning all the time. But the funny thing is that when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls left and right, you really didn't hear a lot of that except for fans of teams in the AFC East. Why? Because we were tired of getting our asses kicked by the Patriots. Pretty soon, it became a running joke that if you took a bet at the beginning of the season, that Tom Brady would probably have like a 68% chance of playing in the Super Bowl. That actually became a running joke. So, even with the Patriots' success and now the Kansas City Chiefs' success, it just seems like to me that sports fans or the casual fan becomes very bored very quickly with everything, which is disappointing. So, for me, I'm still going to watch the Super Bowl. I really don't have a rooting interest. The only thing that I really give a shit about is I want to see a good game. I don't want to see a 54-3 blowout. I don't want to see Philly roll over and die. Okay? I want to see a good, solid football game from start to finish. Period. I want to see a competitive game. And at this point, I don't even care who wins. Give me a competitive game in which I could actually sit and watch the game and enjoy it. Because I love the game of football. Even though my team sucks, I still love the game of football. So, like I said, I want to see a good game. That's really all I care about. Now, that being said, that's my thought about the Super Bowl. This is my thought about the New York Jets offseason. This is my thoughts about the Aaron Glenn hire and so on and so forth. That's pretty much it. Now, one of the things that I did want to turn my attention to is, of course, the NBA. Now, I know Sonia loves to talk NBA on here besides Carolina Panthers football, which I really hope that the Carolina Panthers, with their rebuild, that they can find a way to put it all together, string some wins together, make some noise, and get the arrow to point up. Bryce Young, can he be that guy? That's all. We've seen him play very well this past season. There were games where he did step up and he did play very well. The question is, can you take the momentum from this year and carry it over to next year? So, again, going to use another analogy, sort of like Jets fans were hoping with Zach Wilson, where he had a couple of really good games, had a bunch of momentum, went into the offseason, went into the next year, and they completely wet the bed. Anyhow, I digress. So now, let's talk a little NBA. All right. There has been some huge trades going on. This is something that actually just got broken. I want to say, what time is it now? It's 9:30. Roughly, I think that this broke, I want to say about maybe 8:40, 8:45, roughly, when I got the alert. And I was just like, holy cow. Jimmy Butler, disgruntled player from the Miami Heat. They've been talking about him left and right all over sports radio. Has finally been dealt from the Miami Heat to the Golden State Warriors. Upon that trade, Butler has already gone and signed an extension. Now, the details of the extension are going to be as follows. I'm trying to pull up the information, so bear with me. As part of the agreement of the trade, this is again per ESPN.com, Butler will decline his $52 million player option for next season and plans to sign a new 2-year, $121 million deal that carries through the 26-27 season. Sources said. So, the Warriors are sending to Miami Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, plus a top 10 protected 2025 pick to the Heat. They've also made another trade in which guard Dennis Schroeder, which was acquired by the Warriors in December, is now going to be sent to the Utah Jazz. The Jazz is going to be sending forward PJ Tucker, who played with the Heat from 2021 to 2022, back to Miami. Guard Lindy Waters III will go from Golden State to the Detroit Pistons, and Josh Richardson will go from Miami to Detroit. Man, talk about a deal. Talk about a deal with a lot of moving parts, with a lot of things going on, and a lot of assets being traded back and forth. I'm sure that Miami Heat fans are probably saying either they're happy that Jimmy Butler is gone, or they're pissed that Jimmy Butler is gone. But either way, he's out. He's now a Golden State Warrior. So the players that you got in return, it's going to be curious to see how Pat Riley and company will use them in the lineup. I'm sure I want to say Eric Spoelstra is still coaching the Heat. I have no idea, to be honest with you. So I'm not even going to stand up here and bullshit you guys. But the one thing that I am going to do is this is a huge deal. Not just because of the fact that Pat Riley was consent to deactivate Jimmy Butler and suspend Jimmy Butler for conduct detrimental to the team, but it also sends a message that it does not matter where you are or who you are on this team, you can still be dealt. Now, here's the other thing too. Y'all remember a couple of days ago, right? Luka Doncic gets traded from Dallas to LA. And a lot of people were going absolutely nuts over this trade. Why are they doing this? So on and so forth. But, you know, the thing that you have to look at right here, all right, with Luka being traded for AD, the Dallas Mavericks feel like that they have enough right now where they feel like they are a better basketball team than they were the day before with Luka. I'm not necessarily sure how the Lakers feel. I'm sure that LeBron is probably happy. I'm sure that LeBron had to be consulted for the trade and so on and so forth. So, to me, the way that I look at it is like this. If I personally think that, now mind you, I don't watch basketball, but if you want to go roster for roster, personally, when you swap superstars in a deal like this, I feel like both teams made out. Some people will probably say, well, Dallas got, the the raw end of this because Anthony Davis is made of glass. Well, let's see. Some players, some athletes respond better to a change of scenery. So let's see if that ends up turning out to be the case here. So, quick update on the Rangers game. Rangers still leading 3-2. Boston Bruins have pulled their goaltender, Korpisalo, and there is 1:24 left to go in the third period. So, hopefully, New York Rangers can pull out a win. They desperately need it. They desperately need to make up points in the playoffs because they are hurting. They're hurting right now. But we'll talk a little bit of NHL in a little bit. I want to finish up the NBA first. Now, in the Luka trade, the parameters just again per ESPN.com. Luka went to the Lakers. In the exchange, Dallas acquired All-Star center Anthony Davis, as well as promising guard Max Christie and the Lakers' 2029 first-round pick. So because of the NBA salary cap rule, or because of the salary cap rules, the trade also required, and it does not give me the second half of the article, so I have no idea what they required. So, okay, cool. Let's see if it did it that way. Nope. Okay. So, the NBA trade deadline, which is tomorrow at 3 p.m., I really think is going to be an absolute. It's going to be a swarm. Because I'm sure that there are people, there are going to be 2-team trades, there are going to be 3-team trades, there's going to be 4-team trades, to try to see who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers. So even though I don't follow the NBA, and I'm going to be honest with you, I am curious to see exactly what trades are going to be made tomorrow. And even though I pay zero attention to it, it's just going to be curious to see how talk radio is going to turn itself upside down tomorrow. Shortly after 3 p.m. when the trade deadline is over with. So that's the NBA for right now. So for all you NBA fans, there is your brief talk about some basketball. I'm sure Sonia will probably be very proud of me. All right. Now, let's have some fun. In a sport that I know a great deal about besides football, we're now going to turn our attention to the National Hockey League. All right, so 3 games on the slate for tonight. Bruins at the New York Rangers. I already told you guys it's 3-2. There is a minute left to go in the third period. Bruins have again, after the timeout, pulled their goaltender. So they are doing 6-on-5, trying to tie this game up to get it to overtime. So far, the Rangers defense is holding on. Let's see if they can hold on for the next 46 seconds. So 2 other games on the slate tonight at 9:30. The Oilers are in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. Oilers coming in with a 33-16-4 record, taking on Chicago with a 16-31-5 record. That's going to be interesting. Oilers are getting minus 270 on the game odds if anybody's interested in betting. So, Rangers just iced the puck. 22.3 seconds left to go in the game. Still leading 3-2. The Montreal Canadiens, which have been in a little bit of a slide lately, they now go out west to take on the LA Kings. Montreal comes in with 25-23-5, taking on an LA Kings team 27-17-6. Right now, as far as the odds, the Kings are getting minus 240. So, again, if anybody's interested in betting, there you go. Now, talk a little bit about the standings, all right? Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the conference, all right? Let's start with the Eastern Conference, all right? Washington, first place. 77 points right now. Carolina's behind them with 68. Florida is behind them at 67, 1 point behind. Toronto Maple Leafs behind them. And it is now final. Rangers beat the Rangers beat the Bruins 3-2 in a much-needed victory that the Rangers needed right now. So, that being said, let's continue on. New Jersey Devils, 50 in the Eastern Conference, 66 points. They're tied with Toronto. The Ottawa Senators, right below Jersey, with 62 points. Detroit's right below them with 61. They're in the thick of it. Tampa Bay with 60 points. They're also tied with Boston for 60. The Columbus Blue Jackets, all right, they have 59 points right now. The Islanders, red hot Islanders, they've been winning. Really been causing havoc. They got 57 points. Montreal behind them with 55. The Rangers are at 54 right now. With this win, puts them at 56. So they passed Montreal, and they are 1 point behind the Islanders right now with tonight's win. Pittsburgh at 53, Philadelphia at 53, and Buffalo at the bottom of the Eastern Conference with 49 points. So, now, just for kicks, if the playoffs started today, out of the Atlantic Division, Florida would be the division winner. Toronto and Ottawa would be second and third. Toronto would actually finish first. Second, Ottawa would finish third. In the Metro, Washington would be the division leader. Carolina finishes second. New Jersey Devils would finish third. And your wild card in the Eastern Conference, your first wild card would be the Detroit Red Wings. And your second wild card right now would be the Tampa Bay Lightning. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams within striking distance of that second wild card spot. The New York Rangers right now at 56 points. They're 1 point right behind the Islanders. Okay? The Islanders are at 57. Columbus is at 59. Boston is at 60. They're actually tied with Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay gets a tiebreaker. So, that's a big deal right there. Now, that's the Eastern Conference. Now, let's take a look at the Western Conference, shall we? All right. So, your Western Conference, right? Your overall leader right now, tops in the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets, 79 points. Edmonton, second in the West with 70. The Dallas Stars are at 69. They're in third. The VGK, Vegas Golden Knights, always an interesting team to watch. Fourth overall with 68. Minnesota Wild are at 66 points. Colorado Avalanche at 64 points. The LA Kings, who are going to be hosting Montreal tonight, they're at 60. Calgary Flames, so you're looking, the Calgary Flames are at 59. Vancouver is at 59. They've struggled as of late, where they got out of the gate hot and they've been struggling. So, curious to see if Rick Tocchet can get that squad to turn it around. The Utah Hockey Club behind Vancouver with 53 points. St. Louis Blues are tied with them, also with 53 points. Anaheim has 52. The Seattle Kraken has 50 points. Nashville has 43. And the San Jose Sharks, as expected, last in the Western Conference with 36 points. So, now, out of the Western Conference, I do want to say one thing. Nashville, with all of the deals that they made in free agency before the start of this season, that has got to be the biggest disappointment this year so far. The second disappointment, and yes, this is coming from a New York Rangers fan, is in fact the New York Rangers. You had a team that finished overall in the Eastern Conference last year. You had a team that won the President's Trophy. They were Metropolitan Division winners. Okay? Made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Started off really good, 12-4, and then they completely, utterly fell apart at the seams. The wheels came off the wagon. Like one wheel went this way, one wheel went that way, one wheel went over to here, and they were gliding across the ground with the sparks all over. It was an absolute mess. They're still not out of the woods yet. They had a 5-game point scoring streak, which got snapped. They lost 3 in a row. Were able to get a win, get another loss, get a win, get another loss. They need to continue to try to string some wins together because right now at this point, all right, after Monday of next week, which is, I want to pull up the calendar right here just for a second. The last day for NHL games is going to be Monday, February 10th, because from the 12th to the 20th, the Four Nations tournament will take place from the 12th to February 20th. That's going to be an interesting, a very, very interesting game. Holy cow. I cannot wait for that tournament. There has never been a tournament that I've been more excited for than the Four Nations face-off. Probably the World Cup of Hockey, but the problem is they always end up doing it over in Europe or across the pond where you can't watch the games live. You have to watch them on tape delay. Or you got to stay up in the middle of the night in order to be able to watch them. Or sometimes you got to watch them first thing in the morning where, hockey games on at 4:30 in the morning over here. Now, I know I'm just being ridiculously petty about it, but this is something still. When it comes to international hockey, I absolutely love international hockey. Olympic hockey, love it. The IIHF World Cup tournament, love it. Absolutely love it. Because these are the future superstars of the NHL and also other leagues around the world. We're talking about the Swedish League. We're talking about the KHL. All right. There are just so many players. All right. Really quick, I got to get this comment on. Pink Fan Fur. Hello, CJ. Hope you're having a good show. Yeah, I think it's doing okay. Pretty good so far. Mikey Maynard, thank you for joining the show. How about that joke of the U.S. Four Nations roster not including Cole Caulfield? Yeah, you know what? I'm actually in agreement with you on that. I also think that, believe it or not, with the USA roster, I felt like there were a few other players that were deserving that did not make it. I still think the U.S. roster is solid, but I still think that there could have been other tweaks that could have been made. Again, just my opinion. All right. So now, continuing on, because I did it with the Eastern Conference, I want to do it with the Western Conference. Okay. Now, with the Western Conference, if the playoffs started today, Winnipeg would be your division winner. Dallas in the Central Division and Minnesota. Dallas would be second. Minnesota would be third. In the Pacific Division, Edmonton would be your division winner. The Vegas Golden Knights would be second. The LA Kings would be third. In the wild card, Colorado Avalanche would be your wild card 1. Calgary Flames would be your wild card 2. Now, here's what's interesting about this. Vancouver has the same amount of points as Calgary, but Calgary owns the tiebreaker. So they would get it. Utah is right behind Vancouver, 6 points out of a spot. And their play has been moderately inconsistent as of late. So I still think that they're good enough to make a run, but it all depends on what they do on the trade deadline. Are you going to be buyers or are you going to be sellers? So St. Louis, same amount of points as Utah, 53. Anaheim right behind them, 1 point behind with 52. Seattle still in the mix, believe it or not, even as bad as they've been playing this year. I'm not really sure why, but holy cow. Seattle with 50 points. They're still in the mix. Nashville, 43. They're a lost cause. They're going to need a miracle and probably going to need half the NHL to lose 10 games straight in order for them to catch up. Chicago with 37 points. And, of course, the San Jose Sharks with 36. So, if the playoffs started today, those would be your playoff teams. So, you could assimilate your bracket as you want. That would actually be pretty cool. So, now, as I continue more about it, all right, when you think about the Four Nations teams, right, and Mike, if you're still watching, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it, really. This Four Nations face-off, if this actually goes the way that I hope it goes, the NHL should do something like this, like a derivative of this every single year. I really think. Where, like the All-Star game, you have the All-Star competitions, and then you have your 3-on-3 in which you break down your Eastern Conference, your Western Conference. You have squads where they all play, and then you have your championship game. That was actually pretty cool for the most part. I liked the format, the newer format of the All-Star game, because it wasn't just, guys like not really wanting to hit, guys not really wanting to play hard. Like there was actually something to play for in it. So with the Four Nations tournament, what I love about it is you actually get to see your Four Nations play. You have United States, you have Canada, you have Finland, you have Sweden. Now, what I would like to see in the future, I'd like to see maybe 4 go to 6. Maybe include Russia. Okay? Maybe include Czech Republic. I wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't mind that at all. So I think it would be good for the NHL in the middle of their season to have some sort of little mini international tournament with their players actually playing, representing their country, their home country, for a gold medal. I think it would be amazing. I love it. Like I said, I love international hockey. Do I love international hockey more than I love the NHL? I'd probably say close. But the reason why I love the international hockey is, of course, because the ice surface is larger. There's a lot more emphasis on finesse and play. They're still hitting, but there's not as much. But there definitely is a lot more emphasis on hockey IQ. So, to me, I love the international game. So, that being that, that's what we talk about. Okay, so that's your NHL segment of tonight's show here on Prim and Proper Sports. So, just a quick recap. Jets got a new head coach, got a whole new staff. Hopefully, Woody Johnson keeps his mouth shut. Lets his football people do football work. Maybe the Jets actually turn into a somewhat competitive team. So maybe Jet fans don't have to be embarrassed to wear their gear next year. That's the first part. Second part, in the NBA, we've learned that no superstar is immune for a trade. We saw the Miami Heat trade Jimmy Butler. We saw the Dallas Mavericks trade Luka Doncic. Curious to see who else will get traded somewhere within the next 12 hours or so, or probably 12 to 16 hours. So that's going to be interesting. As after 3 p.m. tomorrow, the NBA landscape could look much, much different than the way that it looks today. It already is starting to look different. Now, in the NHL, your playoff races are still tight. Trade deadline is still some time away. Four Nations tournament coming up. Outdoor game in Chicago with Chicago versus Columbus. That's going to be interesting coming March. I believe it's March 1st. So, a lot of exciting things if you're a hockey fan down the pike. A lot of things to look forward to. Now, here's where I'm going to take a step away from sports, and I just want to talk just candidly to the audience. So, I'm sure everybody that we know knows somebody who's struggling with mental health. I'm sure that everybody we know has had some sort of brush with mental health. I don't know if everyone we've met, I can only speak to myself. I've lost friends fighting mental health. So with that, my word to all of you is this. Be kind to one another. Because the person standing next to you could be fighting a battle that you know absolutely nothing about. Their struggles could be way beyond what you could possibly comprehend. And even if you yourself are suffering, call 988, National Suicide Prevention Hotline, National Crisis Helpline. Talk to a friend. Talk to a family member. Talk to someone. If you feel like that you are at the point where you just cannot take it anymore and you have reached that edge, reach out. There are resources there to help you. Mental health is not a stigma, and it's nothing for you to be ashamed of. And anybody who would tell you otherwise, that you need to be ashamed of it, shame on them for not having a clue as to what exactly they're saying. Mental health is real. All right? I stepped away from shows twice to focus on my mental health and also my physical health, because my mental health was affecting my physical health. All right? I feel a lot better today than I did a couple of years ago. And if I can do it, I know all of you can do it. So if you know somebody who's struggling, the best thing that you could do is be there for them. Point them in the right direction to help them get help. Be that rock. Be that ear that they can count on. I promise you they will thank you for it. On that note, that's going to do it for tonight's edition of Prim and Proper Sports. My name is CJ the Painkiller DeSimone. It has been my pleasure to sit here and entertain you for the past hour. For Sonia Pearson, thank you for the opportunity. So with that, I say good night. I say farewell. Be safe. Be good to one another. And just take a deep breath.
Y'all know what it is. It's for all my Raider Nation heads out there. Yeah. Let's let them know. Let's let them know. Let's let them know. I'ma ride with the squad, rockin' silver and black. We the Raiders from the West. Nothing